start.
Good afternoon, guys. This is Dr. Narayani from School of Health Sciences, Mosa University. I'm here about to teach you the module microbiology, while the module code is 560 MCB018. And today we are going to see about Unit 2 in that types of microorganisms. Under that, two topics we are going to learn today. One is identification of microorganisms, and the second one is microscopic examination. Everyone knows what is meant by microorganisms, is it? What is meant by microorganisms? You see how we may not know this microorganism. We can't say we don't know, because we in the recent trend the whole world has shut down because of coronavirus. Virus is one of the microorganisms, right? Yeah. Microorganism means the organism which is unable to see by our naked eye. It can be seen only through the microscope. You see, after 2 to 3 months only, they have confirmed that the coronavirus, the disease causing, the pandemic disease causing virus is the coronavirus, and they named it later only, and now it is one of the trend in the whole world. Okay, let us come into the topic. Let us see about identification of microorganism. Next, what is identification in microbiology? Identification is the practical use of classification criteria that is used to distinguish certain organisms from others. For example, if we have cough, we can't say it is simply as a cold, is it? There may be many reasons we can, we were affected by cold. So, if the cold is continuous in our body, then we have to go to the hospital. Then we want to check our blood and we want to confirm whether it is bacteria or virus or fungi or what infection, what microbial infection. For that, we want to identify, is it what by which microorganism we get affected. I'm saying this is simple story for only the cold, right? So to verify the authenticity or utility of a strain or a particular reaction in our body, we want to isolate and identify the organism which causes the particular disease. That's what I said, a small example. If we have continuous cold, we want to go to hospital to identify the microorganism. What is the reason for continuous cold in our body? Next, why is it important to identify microorganisms? In the field of medicine, a branch of microbiology that is especially investigates pathogenic microorganisms. You see, we are surrounded by the environment. This environment, is made up of pure air and also the infected air, where the air consists of microorganisms. In that, there will be the available of useful microorganisms also and pathogenic microorganisms also. So, to identify the pathogenic microorganisms which is causing mainly the infectious disease, we want to go for identification test in the laboratory analysis. So this primary focus is to isolate, identify and study microorganisms which is responsible for infectious disease. That's why identification of microorganism is very, very important in the field of medicine. Next, What all are the methods of identifying microorganisms? There are two methods. You see, I have simplified the topic so that you can easily understand. I didn't give an elaborated things. I just given a simple topic, simple explanation. There are two methods of identifying microorganisms. One is traditional method. Traditional methods depends on phenotypic identification using staining, culturing, and simple biochemical tests, whether they may be bacteria or whether they be virus or algae or fungi. They simply go for staining and culturing. Then through biochemical test, they will identify whether it is bacteria or virus or some other microorganisms. Then second method is modern method. You see, we are in modern technologies. So in the recent trends, there were many methods were used to identify the microorganisms, like molecular methods, that is DNA sequencing. Then immunological methods, they go for serological analysis, and biochemical analytical methods, or even we can say genetic methods. So these two methods were used to identify the microorganisms. Which microorganism is causing disease? We will see the types little later. So by using these two methods, we can identify the causative agent of particular disease. Next, classification. Here we are entering into the types. What is classification in microbiology? This classification seeks to describe the diversity of bacterial species by naming and grouping organisms based on similarities. I hope everyone knows about taxonomy, right? In the world, there were many species in plants, many species in animals. We are also coming under animals, Homo sapiens, right? So, in the world, there is a taxonomy. Under taxonomy, the species were separated. Under the species separation, it is also classified according to the characters, phenotypic and genotypic characters. By this classification only, we can come to a conclusion which organism is responsible for causing the diseases. So, we want to know about the classification in microbiology. Microorganisms can be classified on the basis of cell structure, then cellular metabolism, or in differences about cell components such as DNA, because some virus may have genetic material as DNA. Some virus may have genetic material as RNA. So by this differences, we can identify particular virus. Then fatty acids, pigments, antigens, and quinones. So based on these matters, we can classify the microorganisms. Next, types of microorganisms. Microorganisms are divided into 6 types. If you refer some other notes, you can find there were 5 types, there were 6 types, there were 7 types. They even included the parasite as also the microorganism, but we can see that through naked eye. Normally, I mean the standard classification of microorganism is 6 types. One is bacteria, another one is archaea, that is also bacteria. Okay, but there is a small difference in that classification. Third one is protozoa, fourth one is algae, and the next one is fungi, and the sixth one is virus. Each type has a characteristic cellular composition. What is cellular composition? The cell is made up of peptidoglycan or chitin. Maybe the composition of the cells may be differ. Then morphology, then locomotion, and reproduction. If you see some bacteria, they can't move. So based on the locomotion also it is classified. Or some microorganisms have a locomotion part. Maybe it consists of one flagella as a locomotive part, or sometimes it may consist of two locomotive or tail to move or locomotion, or it consists of four tails for locomotion. So based on the presence of parts also or locomotion also it is classified. Then based on the reproduction, maybe it undergoes sexual reproduction or asexual reproduction. Under reproduction also it is classified. Microorganisms are beneficial in producing oxygen, decomposing organic material, providing nutrients for plants, and maintaining human health. But some can be pathogenic and cause diseases in plants and humans. That's what I said. Our environment is surrounded by microorganisms, while it consists of both useful microorganisms and also pathogenic microorganisms, where this is responsible for causing diseases to us and also in plants and also in some other animals. Next, let us see this flow chart of classification. I already told that there were 6 types of microorganisms. Microorganisms means we can't see with our naked eye. It is classified into bacteria, viruses, fungi, algae, protozoa, and archaebacteria. So let us see one by one now. Next, bacteria. First one is bacteria. What is meant by this bacteria? Bacteria are unicellular organism. Uni means single cell. It consists of one cell. The cells are described as prokaryotic because they lack a nucleus. Nucleus means you don't think that it doesn't contain DNA. No, it doesn't consist of a nuclear membrane, a definite nucleus. That means it is said to be a nucleolus. Maybe it consists of DNA or RNA, that is a genetic material, but it is not surrounded by a nuclear membrane. But eukaryotic means genetic material is present that is surrounded by a nuclear membrane. That means true nucleus. It is called as true or definite nucleus. So there may be a specific difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic. So you can just remember by this meaning. Karyotic nucleus. Karyo means nucleus. Pro means what? Absent. That means nuclear membrane is absent. Eukaryotic, U means present nucleus. So definite nucleus is present there. Here, no definite nucleus is present here. That means absence of nuclear membrane. They exist in 4 major shapes. You can observe bacteria in these 4 shapes. What all are they? Bacillus or rod shape, coccus or spherical shape, spirilla or spiral shape, and vibrio. Vibrio means curved shape. So these 4 shapes can be identified in bacteria, and based on these shapes also it is classified. Then most bacteria have a peptidoglycan cell wall and they divide by binary fission, and they may possess flagella for motility. So flagella is like a tail, tail, and it helps in moving from one place to another place. The difference in their cell wall structure is a major feature used in classifying these organisms. So cell wall structure, that's what I said. It may be consist of peptidoglycan layer, or it may be consist of chitin layer. That means we can simply say it may consist of carbohydrate rich source, or it may consist of protein rich layer, or it consists of lipids rich layer. So based on the cell wall structure also it is classified. Next, you can observe the picture here. I said there may be 4 major shapes of microorganisms. One is what? Spherical shape. Then bacilli, rod shape. Then what? Cocci, that's what spherical shape. Then spirilla shape, that is spiral shaped. Then vibrio shape, that is curved shape. So here you can see, for example, Neisseria gonorrhea. Gonorrhea is a curved shape bacteria. Then vibrio cholerae, you can see it consists of tail and it is curved shape. And because of this tail or flagella, it helps to move from one place to another place. Then E. coli, then Salmonella. Then you can see Bacillus, that is a rod-shaped organism. Then you can see Clostridium botulinum, that is also rod-shaped microorganism. Then Staphylococcus, you see in the name itself there is a coccus. Coccus means spherical shape. So based on their shape, it is classified. Then next, Archaeobacteria. Archaeobacteria differ from true bacteria. We have seen about what bacteria. Bacteria consist of peptidoglycan in their cell wall, where Archaeobacteria doesn't have peptidoglycan in their cell wall. So it is separated from a normal bacteria. Even though they are also prokaryotic cells with ability to extreme environment conditions based on their habitat. The special character of Archaeobacteria is they can survive under critical conditions. That's why it comes under specific classification because of their habitat. Habitat means the place where it is living, is it? So the Archaeans, based on the habitat, it is classified into the following groups. That is methanogens. That means it is the methane producing organisms. Halophils that live in salty environments. Thermophiles that live at extreme hot temperatures, and psychrophiles that lives in cold temperature. You see, the environment changes from even one country to another country. So, for example, if Zambia is so hot or so cool, in that place, thermophiles or psychrophiles can survive there. You know, Arctic Ocean. Arctic Ocean is very cooler. So, in that place, this specific microorganisms can survive. In there may be the difference between the salt water and the lake water. Salt water, sea water is very salty. Lake water is not that much salty. So this halophils survive in the salty water. So based on their habitat, they have a specific characters of living in a special environment. So this is what about Archaeobacteria. It is also comes under bacteria, but have a special character. That is what it lacks peptidoglycan layer. Then third one, fungi. Next one is fungi. Fungi, you can say some examples like mushroom, mold, and yeast, or eukaryotic cells with a true nucleus. That's what I said. Their indefinite nucleus, here definite, or you can say true nucleus. Most fungi are multicellular. Multicellular means number of cells. It consists of number of cells. And their cell wall is composed of chitin layer, where bacteria consist of peptidoglycan layer. They obtain nutrients by absorbing organic material from their environment through symbiotic relationship with plants or harmful relationship with their host. That means it may be act as a decomposer in the environment, or it may live as a symbiotic relationship. That means you also get advantage and I will also get advantage. We can live together. That is what symbiotic relationship or harmful relationship. To live, it will kill the other organism. That's what it will kill the host. They form characteristic filamentous tubes called hyphae. I mean, the basic structure of fungi is called as hyphae, and this hyphae, the collection of hyphae is called as mycelium. And this fungi reproduce by releasing spores. That means spore formation. You can see the microscopic structure of fungi there. Then next, protozoa. Protozoa are unicellular aerobic eukaryotes. They have a nucleus, complex organelles, and obtain nourishment by absorption or ingestion through specialized structures. That means it consists of flagellas and it consists of like amoeba. Even you can say the example as amoeba. It will use vacuoles too. It will use a technique called absorption to eat food. It forms a vacuole-like structure. Through the vacuole, the food enters there. Then it covers the food so that the vacuole also disappears. They make up the largest group of organisms in the world in terms of numbers, biomass, and diversity. So, which is the largest group of organisms in the world? The main one is protozoa. Their cell walls are made up of cellulose. So, I'm asking a question like this. Bacteria consist of, the bacterial cell wall consists of the following matter composition or following structure. Number 1, peptidoglycan. Number 2, chitin. Number 3, cellulose. What will you take? Bacteria consist of peptidoglycan. Fungi consist of chitin. Protozoa consist of cellulose. Okay? Yeah. Protozoa have been traditionally divided based on their mode of locomotion. So here, protozoa has been classified according to the number of flagella present. Then next, algae. Algae, which is also called as cyanobacteria or blue-green algae, it is unicellular or it may be multicellular that contain nourishment by photosynthesis. You can observe the picture here. Why it is green in color? Because it prepare their own food by means of a process called photosynthesis. That means it consists of chlorophyll pigment like a plant. They live in water, damp soil and rocks, produce oxygen and carbohydrates used by other organisms. Then last one is viruses. You know, everyone is well versed about viruses now because the whole world has shut down by means of COVID-19, right? So we know very well about virus and we are hearing continuously about COVID-19. That's why I have attached the COVID-19 virus image here. Viruses are non-cellular entities that consist of a nucleic acid core, maybe DNA or maybe RNA that is surrounded by a protein coat. Even though viruses are classified as microorganisms, they are not considered living organisms. Why? Because it become live when it attacks the host. That's why they are not considered as a living organism. Viruses cannot reproduce outside a host cell and cannot metabolize on their own. They can't prepare their own food. They have to depend upon the host. So, viruses often infest prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells and simply causes diseases. And when it enters into the body of maybe plants or animals or human beings, by entering into the body only, they can survive by eating the cell. So it is very, very dangerous. So hereby I am finishing the types of microorganisms. We have studied 6 types of microorganisms. They are bacteria, archaebacteria, protozoa, then what? Algae, fungi, and viruses. And we also studied about identification of microorganisms. There are 2 methods. One is old method, and the second one is modern method. Now we are entering into the next topic is microscopic examination. In the first unit, you have studied about the history of microbiology, right? In that, I hope you studied about the identification of microorganism also. How they have identified the microorganisms. When Antony von Leeuwenhoek, when he discovered a lens, he just seen the lens, just observed the saliva through the lens, and he found that something is there. What is that? Then only he named that it as a microorganism, right? Yeah. Then there, at first it starts from the observation of cells through lens, and then it became as advanced, and now there is the identification of or discovery of microscope, standard microscope. The first one is simple microscope, but now we are in very, very standard microscopes. Let us. The examination of minute objects by means of an instrument that provides an enlarged image of an object, which is not visible with the naked eye. What is microscope? Yeah, the microscope is an instrument that can be used to observe small objects, even cells, and the image of object is magnified through the lenses in the microscope. This lens, Antony von Leeuwenhoek, who discovered that a simple lens is used to magnify the cells in a larger way. That is called as what? Microscope. Now, this lens bends light toward the eye and makes an object appear larger than what actually is there. Then, types of microscope. Now there are many invention of modern microscopes. So I have started from the simple microscope and the standard types of microscope here. Number one is simple microscope that consists of only one lens, example magnifying lens. The second one is compound light microscope that consists of two lenses that work together. Compound means mixed, is it? So two lenses. It consists of two lenses that works together to magnify the product, to magnify the cell. Then electron microscope. Electron microscope uses electrons, electrons to provide detailed view of specimens. Under electron microscopes, they have discovered two types of microscope. One is transmission electron microscope and scanning electron microscope. Only the way of electron production is different there. Then dissection microscope, or it is also called a stereoscope, that is used to view objects in 3 dimensions, 3D rotations. Like especially this dissection microscope is used to view the plant cells. Then fluorescence microscope. This is what nowadays in the field of medicine they are using. It uses specific colors of light to interact with the dyes. Why they are using this nowadays means they can identify any types of cells using dye. They can see any types of cells like stem cells, T lymphocytes, any types of cells. They can simply see, you observe through this fluorescence microscope. So even now there are many microscopes are there. They were inventing many things, and these were the standard types of microscope. You can write simple microscope, compound microscope, electron microscope, dissection microscope, and fluorescence microscope. You can observe the picture in the next slide. You see, compound light microscope is like this. Dissecting microscope is like this, where electron microscope is like this. Electron means transmission electron microscope and scanning electron microscope. There were two microscopes. If you can observe the picture in the computer, or you can observe the picture in the camera in the electron microscope. Even now, compound light microscope also they make it as advanced. Simply they will connect this compound light microscope to the computer, or in the upper part of the eyepiece they simply connect to the camera so that they can observe the picture in the camera itself directly. They are making the simple microscope as a modern thing. Then next, uses of microscope. Number one, it is used to diagnose the diseases. and the causes of diseases. It is used to diagnose the disease and also the causes of the disease. That means why I am saying this, I have written the 2 points means used to diagnose the disease and what is the cause of disease. Why? I have added the 4th point in the same, because you see, we are getting fever and we are going to the hospital. We don't know whether it may be because of bacteria or because of viral infection. So at first they want to identify the infection. Then second thing, they want to identify because of which causative agent this infection is there. Is it bacteria or is it virus? That's what I have added the both in the same point. It is used to diagnose the disease and also the causes of it. Second thing, it is used to magnify blood samples to see the attacking of bacteria or virus to RBC. That means how it is fighting with RBC. We can see by microscope. It is very, very interesting. So when you finish your courses, you can observe this in the hospital. Sorry. Then next, it helps to enlarge the view of tiny viruses and it is used to develop vaccines and cures for infectious diseases. Then it is used to analyze the tissue like cancer tissue. Then it helps in genetic studies. Thank you guys. Thank you. Let us see in the next session.
So only one is waiting. If you are, if she is having any question, she can. Yeah. Do you have any question?
Okay, sir.
Lydia? Do you have any question? Esther? Esther, do you have any question? Esther, do you have any question? Esther, do you have any question? Okay. I think they are not. Okay, thank you, madam.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.